Dear students, after studying this module, you shall be able to know what does the term juvenile delinquency actually mean? What are the types and causes of juvenile delinquency? What are the different theories of crime applicable to juvenile delinquency? And about the law against juvenile delinquency. First, the introduction to juvenile delinquency. For most of the young people of our gradually changing society, traditional patterns guiding the relationships and transitions between family, school and work may become quite challenging. The smoothness of socialization process is ensured by social relations, but these days the lifestyle has become so complex that such relations are collapsing. Maturity gap extension and arguably the limited opportunities of becoming an independent adult are the major factors that influence bonding with friends and family, choices and educational opportunities, and moreover the lifestyles. Nowadays, youth, irrespective of social origin, gender or nationality, are subjected to risks and are being presented with new situations and circumstances, some beneficial and some potentially harmful. Quite often, advantage of such illegal opportunities is being taken as young people commit different crimes, become drug addict and may become violent. Next is meaning of juvenile delinquency. Juvenile delinquency means negative behavior of children and teenagers that may result in crimes or illegal actions. Juvenile delinquency, which is also called youth crime or juvenile offending, is actually the participation of minors, juveniles, individuals younger than legal age of majority in illegal behavior. A juvenile delinquent is a person below the age of 18 and has committed an offence which would be charged by law if the offender would have been an adult. On the basis of severity and type of offence, trial of offender below 18 could be done like an adult. Almost every legal system specifies procedures for dealing with juveniles like courts and juvenile detention centers. Next is types of juvenile delinquency. Juvenile delinquency or offending can be classified into three categories on the basis of their trial. Delinquency, crimes committed by minors which are tried by the juvenile courts and justice system. Criminal behavior, crimes dealt with the criminal justice system. Status offences, offences which are only classified as such because one is a minor, like juvenile courts also deal with truancy. According to the research of Moffat conducted in 2006, he found that during adolescence, two different types of offenders emerge out. First is repeat offender, which includes the life course persistent offender, who begins to show aggressive and antisocial behavior in adolescence, which continues in adulthood. And the second is age-specific offender, which includes the adolescence limited offender, for whom juvenile delinquency continues only during their adolescence period. Adolescents limited offenders tend to drop all their antisocial activities as soon as they enter adulthood, because during adolescence most teenagers have a natural tendency to show some form of delinquent, antisocial or aggressive behavior. It is very important to account for such behaviors in childhood for determining whether they will be life course persistent offenders or adolescence limited offenders. Next is causes of anxiety delinquency. The severity and intensity of juvenile offences generally depends upon the cultural, economic and social conditions prevailing in that country. The root causes of juvenile offences are generally found at each layer of the social structure and include social groups and organizations, social institutions, society as a whole, and interpersonal relations. Choice of juvenile of adopting delinquent careers, adopting delinquent careers, and the consequent perpetuation is regulated by many factors. A few of them are described below. First, economic and social factors. Juvenile delinquency is an outcome of the negative consequences of economic and social development, particularly economic crisis, the weakening of major institutions including system of public education and assistance, the state and the family, and political instability. Unemployment and low income are the problems that are linked with socio-economic instability, which often encourage the young people to get indulged into antisocial behavior. Second, sex differences. Young men most commonly commit juvenile offences. Feminist theorists have examined the reasons behind this. One probable outcome is that ideas of masculinity make young males more probable to commit an offense. Being aggressive, powerful, tough, competitive, and daring has become a mode of expressing their masculinity. While acting out on these ideals, young men become more likely to engage in criminal and antisocial behavior. Aggressive behaviors and traits are further reinforced by the treatment received by the young men due to their masculinity. Alternatively, generally, young men are naturally more daring, aggressive, and prone to risk-taking. According to a study led by criminologist Kevin M. Beaver in Florida State University, it was found that variation in a specific gene makes adolescent males more likely to get indulged into delinquent peers. The study, published in the Journal of Genetic Psychology in September 2008, firstly established a statistically significant link between 10 repeat allele of the dopamine transporter gene, that is DAT1, and affinity for antisocial peer groups. Third factor is cultural factors. Delinquent behavior often occurs when the norms for the acceptable social behavior have been broken down. This results in the destructive and traumatizing alterations in the social reality by indulging the juveniles in deviant, rebellious, and even criminal activities. Urbanization. Geographical analysis reveals that registered crime rates is much higher in countries having more urbanized populations in comparison to those having strong rural lifestyles and communities. The reason behind this is the differences in social control and social cohesion. As a means of dealing with antisocial behavior, rural groupings usually rely on community control and family and exhibit notably lower rate of crime. Contrary to this, industrialized urban societies usually resort to formal judicial and legal measures, an impersonal approach that leads to higher crime rates. Fifth is racial differences. Racial differences also have a significant impact on juvenile offenders. When considering racial statistics, it is found that Latino and Black teens are much prone to commit juvenile offenses. Low socioeconomic status, poverty, low parental monitoring, association with deviant peer groups, and harsh parenting are the factors associated with juvenile offending. Sixth, exclusion. The day-by-day increasing gap between poor and rich has led to the emergence of a much larger ratio of youth crime. The exclusion of poor people is gradually increasing with the accumulation of obstacles, ruptured social ties, unemployment, and identity crisis. Seventh, family. Studies have revealed that proper parental supervision makes children less probable to get engaged in criminal activities. Conflicts in the family, weak internal linkages, and integration inadequate parental control are closely linked with juvenile delinquency. Children belonging to economically backward families get few employment opportunities and thus face a much increased risk of social exclusion. Eighth, media. It has been found in many researches that violent games result in a much aggressive behavior in teenagers. It is a more characteristic of 8 to 12-year-old boys who are more prone to get influenced by such factors. Peer influence. Peer group plays an important role in emergence of a youth as an offender. Membership in a delinquent gang, like any other natural grouping, can be an integral part of the process of becoming an adult. Through such primary associations, an individual becomes more susceptible to the criminal mentality. Next, migration. Because margins of the society are often occupied by immigrants who have a very little chance of success, they often seek comfort in their own environment and culture. Differences in values and norms and the varying degree of cultures often result in cultural conflicts, which are among the main sources of criminal behavior. Now we shall discuss about the theories of crime applicable to juvenile delinquency. There are a number of theories regarding the causes of crime. The most common theories which are applicable to the causes behind juvenile delinquency are as follows. First, social disorganization. Current positivist approaches usually focus on the culture of the society. It is a criminological theory attributing to variation in delinquency and crime over time and among territories to the breakdown or absence of social institutions like school, family, social groups, and church, and social relationships that aim towards the encouragement of cooperative relationships. Second, rational choice. Classical criminology relies on the opinion that it is not the external environment but the causes of crime lie within the offender as an individual. Rational choice theory is the best demonstration of this idea. Rational choice is the basic theme behind delinquency. According to classics, rational self-interest motivates offenders, and the importance of personal responsibility and free will is emphasized. Next is strain. Strain theory is associated mainly with Robert Merton's research. This theory holds that the basic reason behind any crime is that poverty makes it difficult to achieve social goals by legal means. 5 adaptations have been suggested by Merton in reference to this dilemma. First is innovation. Here individuals accept socially approved goals, but not necessary to adopt the means that are approved socially. Retreatism. Here both the socially approved goals and means are rejected. Third, ritualism. Here socially approved goals are rejected but not the means which are socially acceptable. Fourth, conformity. Here means and goals of the system are conformed. Fifth, rebellion. People who deviate from socially approved means and goals and create a new system of socially acceptable goals and means. A major drawback of this theory is based on the fact that economic motivation is not the sole basis of youth crime. Along with this, the theory fails to explain the grounds of violent crime. Fourth is labeling. It is a concept that aims to explain social context of deviant behavior, rather than focusing at the individual themselves. This theory is an integral part of interactionism criminology, which states that young people who are more likely to offend are labeled as criminal. This theory explains the fact that why male children belonging to poor families are more prone to be labeled as deviant. Next is differential association. This theory deals with the young people in context of a group and look at how the existence of gangs and peer pressure could indulge them into crime. There are strong evidences that young people having criminal friends are more likely to get indulged into crimes themselves. Furthermore, the basic question remains as such, that how these delinquent peer groups initially became delinquent. Next is social control. This theory proposes the process of social learning and socialization, builds on self-control and reduces the inclination towards the antisocial behavior. There are three types of control that helps in preventing juvenile delinquency. First, direct, second, indirect, and third, internal. First, direct, in which punishment is used to threaten the people of wrongful behavior and compliance is rewarded by family, parents, and higher authorities. Second, indirect, in which those people are identified who can influence behavior. That is, his delinquent act may cause disappointment and pain to others. Third is internal, in which a youth refrains from delinquency by means of superego and conscience. Next is law against juvenile delinquency. Juvenile Justice Act was enacted in 1986 by Government of India. In 1989, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Rights of a Child, which is ratified in 1992 by India. The convention outlines the process and need of reintegration, the right of the child without judicial proceedings where avoidable. Hence, for fulfilling the standards of the convention, the government felt a need to amend the law. In pursuance of this, in 2000, the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act took the place of the old law. The Act provides for a much sensitive, special approach towards the treatment and prevention of juvenile delinquency and provides a framework for the treatment, protection, and rehabilitation of children in the purview of the juvenile justice system. This Act has been further amended in the year 2006 and later on in the year 2010. Now, we shall conclude this module with the summary. Juvenile delinquency, which is also called youth crime or juvenile offending, is actually the participation of minors, that is juveniles. Those are the individuals younger than legal age of majority in illegal behavior. According to the research of Moffat conducted in 2006, he found that during adolescence, two different types of offenders emerge out. First is repeat offender and the second is age-specific offender. The severity and intensity of juvenile offences are usually determined by the prevailing cultural, economic, and social conditions in a country. A number of theories exist explaining the causes of crime. A few of them are stress theory, social disorganization, rational choice, etc. Juvenile Justice Act was enacted in 1986 by Government of India. In 1989, the UN General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Rights of a Child, which is ratified in 1992 by India. The convention outlines the process and need of reintegration, the right of the child without judicial proceedings were avoidable.